About Bromium.
Hello, my name is Simon Crosby. I am one of the co-founders and the CTO of Bromium. And yesterday we announced a tremendous partnership with Microsoft in the context of Windows 10 and security. What's the problem? I think everybody gets what the problem is. Horrendous tales of breaches, and most of these breaches start with an endpoint that is compromised. So message one is upgrade your Windows instance from traditional legacy Windows to Windows 10, because Windows 10 is vastly more secure. But Windows 10 does something else which is profoundly interesting. For the first time, Microsoft uses a feature set on the PC CPU which is built for virtualization, and they use that to completely eliminate a common vector of attack on the enterprise, and this is called a pass the hash attack. The credential store of Windows is stored in the operating system, and if you happen to manage to compromise Windows, whether 0-day or something else, then you could steal this and use this to log on to other systems on the enterprise network. And so when Microsoft in Windows 10 turns on this mode called VSM, they enable a client hypervisor, which is a very small trusted code base. And the credential store managed by LSAS moves under the control of this client hypervisor. That's called VSM, Virtual Secure Mode. And what that means is that a compromised endpoint is of less value to an attacker. The attacker can perhaps steal data, they can go deeper into the network, they can maybe install a keylogger or steal other credentials in the browser, but ultimately they cannot steal this really critical key store which is part of Windows. So think of this as Microsoft moving the keys of the castle, the jewels, deeper into the castle, building a big wall around it with CPU-based hardware isolation. Bromium complements this by adding a technology called micro-virtualization to Windows 10 and even to Windows 7 Plus endpoints. And what we do is we use that same hardware capability on the client CPU to hardware isolate individual tasks running in the operating system. So it's almost as though we're on the ramparts, eliminating attack vectors and eliminating all possibility of malware from persisting on the endpoint. How do we do this? Every time the user clicks on something, one of these scary MIME types or a URL, we hardware isolate that task in a tiny little structure called a micro VM. There's nothing in there to steal, there's no network to go and explore, and at best there's a cookie or the document that the bad guy showed up on. Of course, we do this without changing the end user experience, so the user sees a wonderful, rich Windows 10 desktop user experience, but behind the scenes this thing is hardware isolated. So if malware shows up, it cannot persist, there's nothing to steal and nowhere to go. And moreover, a beautiful side effect of virtualization, the moment the user closes the window or the task, it's all simply eliminated. So even if an attack actually executes in the context of the desktop software, it will simply be auto-remediated the moment the task is closed. It turns out that there is another beautiful side effect of micro-virtualization, and that is instead of trying to detect bad stuff before bad happens, which is the standard problem of antivirus today and all of the network detection gear that you have, we can wait for the bad guy to do bad. And by waiting to do bad, we get to eliminate all of the false alerts that typically distract an enterprise security team. So instead of generating a haystack full of false alerts that you have to pick through by hand, we actually generate needles at a very low rate and give you high quality data, which includes absolutely everything that the malware did. Every touch on the registry, the file system, anything it dropped, and so on. And this is immediately forwarded to the enterprise SOC. So that's the Bromium story. Between Bromium and Microsoft, we think that Windows PCs are now secure by design. And that's a very bold statement for a security vendor. This is the world's most secure PC, secured through hardware that you already own, the endpoint that you have already, which can do all of this naturally without having to buy all of this expensive security gear and security software that doesn't work.